Hello, friends. It's good to be here with you today. I'm Scott. I'm the former head of mindfulness and compassion programs at LinkedIn and author and speaker. And I'm here with my friend to celebrate my friend, Veronica Carrera, who's just written an extraordinary book about her life, a memoir. It's called 140 Miles of Life, a remarkable journey of self-acceptance and love. Hi, Veronica.
Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I love it. For those of you who don't know Veronica, she is a senior sales manager at LinkedIn, and she holds a BA in French from Brigham Young University and an MBA from Cornell. She's an avid triathlete and passionate advocate for human rights. And we're here to talk about your new book. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. I know that you know what it feels like since you just really published your own book.
Yeah, in May of this year. Yeah. Well, thank you for the honor of being here. And maybe let's just take a moment for all of our friends out there. Just maybe take a moment and settle in and just, put all your other devices away. And my invitation for you, for all of us, is just to be fully present and just to be in communion with each other, in joy with each other, right? So, Veronica, you've written this book, and even on the cover, you give away lots that's going to happen. In that you were a devout Mormon. In fact, you were teaching Mormonism. You went on a mission, and then you found out you were gay. Maybe you knew all along. And there's all these discoveries that you make about your life. And with all these labels, Mormon, gay, sales leader, whatever it is, Latinx, like these labels we put on ourselves, how do you define yourself now?
Yeah, so I consider myself an international a world citizen. That's what I consider myself. And it's interesting, like in my own person, I wear so many different hats, right? Being an Afro-Latina, gay, woman, so many different labels. But I tend to feel that I'm not necessarily crazy about the labels. I feel like they put us in a box, and and my whole life I try to get out of this box. But the labels are important now as we advance the cause of human rights. So because we need to identify what we are not what we're fighting for, but what we are advocating for, and provide our support. So I feel that I have this deep purpose to make sure that I do whatever I can to help any other person of color, woman, gay person, and support them even through my story.
In reading your story, it seemed like for much of your life you were trying to hide who you really were. And here in this book, you've essentially written a memoir and shared all of your stories. So first of all, what compelled you to write this book now, after being kind of sheltered and closeted for so long? Now you're telling everything. Like, why now?
Yeah, why now? You said it so well. I hid myself all my life. I mean, until my 30s, mid 30s, I was someone who would not admit it to the world that I was gay. I was a Mormon until my mid 30s. I grew up as a Mormon, and you mentioned it at the beginning. I ended up going on a Mormon mission. For those who are not as familiar, that means like you are living as a monk for a year and a half. You don't watch TV, you don't do anything, you can't contact your family. You are doing 24 hours, 7 days a week, what they call missionary work. And on top of that, I ended up going to a Mormon university, a Brigham Young University, and also working for the most prestigious Mormon institution, which is the Missionary Training Center. All the top missionaries end up having the option to be hired and work there. So I did it all, and I was a devout Mormon. But you can imagine the struggle for so many years. It was deep. It was so much. And it took me so many years of my life. And maybe that's why I titled the book 140 Miles of Life, as a metaphor. This Ironman became a metaphor of the story, right? But I think once I was able to come out of this difficult, painful, and complex experience, that even there was a moment that, as you read the book, Scott, you just told me that you finished reading, so thank you about that. There was a moment that I considered suicide,
Mm.
and that was a turning point for me.
Mm.
That was a moment that I realized that my life was so much bigger than the Mormon church,
Mm.
and that my life didn't have to end there, and that
Mm.
perhaps there was something bigger for me waiting out there.
Mm.
So every time I sit with that moment, that I could have ended it all, and then seeing myself here with you now, I think about the
Mm.
blessing of the decision, and the strength and the feeling of being able to get up from the ashes and rise no matter what happens,
Yes.
be able to be here. So with this gift of strength, of power, of love, of healing and wholeness, I realized that God didn't allow me to have this precious life and be filled with so many blessings now just for myself.
Mm.
I wanted my life to become a gift for others,
Yeah.
not just for people of the LGBT community, which is a central part of the story. That's a
Mm.
central struggle, as you can
Mhm.
read in my book. But also, I'm a Latina woman who came here when I was 14 years old without speaking any word of English, and I had to find my way in this new country where it was so foreign to me. The
Mm.
culture was so foreign to me. I I ended up graduating with honors in spite of it. And I was in a foster home for a short amount of time
Mm.
because of what you will read in the book. You know, my father brought me here and his wife didn't want me there. So I ended up being faced with these circumstances, these challenges of being in a foster home and still
Mm.
have to take 2, 3 buses to make it to school. I made it to school so late
Yeah.
because there was no way I could make it on time being in a foster home, having to take
Mm.
2, 3 buses at such a young age. And then when I got to school, uh, I remember sharing with my teacher what was going on with me and why I was coming late. And she was so touched by the story. And that was the person who gave me my first Bible,
Mm.
and all of it to say that it although it challenging, it also has so many beautiful parts along the way, so much grace, so
Mm.
much love, so much power, so much strength, and have, despite all of it, ending up graduating with honors and moving on with my life, and then the Mormon church, and then everything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
I know that there are so many themes there that could help many different people.
Sure. You've been through all these challenges, and if you read the book, and I hope you do, you'll see Veronica's been through a lot. And while this is the story of Veronica, it's really the story of each one of us as we go through struggles. But Veronica, your struggles are perhaps a bit more intense than many of ours. But as you went through them and looking back at them now, what do you think how has that shaped you? How has it turned you into the person you are today?
I think I'm a much more compassionate human being.
Mm.
Um, I I have this deep awareness that I'm not living this life just for myself.
Mm.
In everything I do, in my personal life, how I shop with my family, with my friends, and at work, that it has made me aware that I'm here in service of others,
Mm.
and that is a beautiful gift, and it's a gift of love, and it's a gift of awareness of that comes from what I call this higher power,
Yeah.
because your life and the healing that I had to go through it to get to where I am, the deep healing, the healing in itself, and to come to wholeness and love and true joy is is the blessing, is the gift. And that's the same gift that I want to give to everyone in whatever spaces I
Mm,
occupy.
mm. Beautiful. I think one of the needs we have as humans is to be seen and heard and recognized. And you've spent much of your life hiding that part. And I'm sure it created this tear between who you really were and who you could show up at work. And I'm glad that you've written this book. You've mentioned, suicide, and the statistics on suicide are quite alarming. I read something recently that 1 in 9, or 11% of Americans in the last 30 days considered taking their own life. And I hope that your book and your work helps people realize that they're not alone. They're not the only ones who have gone through struggle. And so what would you say if you could go back in time to the younger Veronica, the Veronica that was struggling, what would you say to her?
Yeah. Thank you, Scott, for acknowledging not just my story, but acknowledging the struggle that people still face out there. And that's why this book is out. According to the Trevor Project, it estimates that at least one LGBTQ youth between the ages of 13 to 24 attempts suicide every 45 seconds in the United States. Every 45 seconds. And that's not just with young people and young adults. I have personal friends of mine who I know who are in the Mormon church who cannot or don't feel that they can come out because the Mormon church sees homosexuality as a crime next to murder. So how do you live with that? I lived with that my whole life. And that's why there was so much struggle. Like, how do you live with yourself knowing that you're doing something so terrible that is so close to committing murder? Because I have feelings for the same sex. So what I would tell my younger self is that to love myself, that I don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
Then there was no need to suffer for that long. And that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah. Beautiful. Somebody says that they love it. Where can they buy the book? It's available on Amazon and any other places you'd like to share where it's available, Veronica?
Primarily Amazon. Adelaide Books has it, but I think Amazon is easier to find.
Everybody knows. Yeah. So tell us about the title. So it's called 140 miles, and I happen to know that that's the number of miles in a triathlon. But what's the importance of the triathlon as a metaphor for what you've gone through?
Yeah. So for those that do not know, 140 miles of life. By the way, I have the book here because obviously I wrote it. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You can see
Let's
it.
get a good shot of it. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. 140 miles. So by the way,
you look like a badass in that picture.
That is my main face before I jump into the ocean. So we debated back and forth. Should I put that mean face on the front? I said, oh, what the heck is me? So let's just do it.
That's right.
By the way, for those who are not familiar, it's the longest endurance triathlon race in the world. It takes 17 hours. That's the limit to complete it. And it consists of a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and a 26.2-mile run. So racing that order and without a break, that is Ironman. And you have to go as fast as you can in each part of the race, and you don't eat. So for those who read the book, you'll find out the tricks and what I have to do in order. So you only take the energy gels along the way. Lots of preparation and lots of training. So I believe your question was, what does it take to train for this race? It takes an incredible amount of discipline, but I did grow up with a lot of discipline anyway. I was an athlete when I was young in Ecuador. I competed in pentathlon nationally. I trained to compete nationally. So as an adult, finding the opportunity to do this, but for those that have not read the book, or maybe they have started to read it, I did not know how to swim. So that brought it to a whole new level.
That's a whole new level.
And racing for it was incredible.
And why did you choose this the triathlon as the front cover of your book. Like, why is it important in your life, and how does it
Yeah.
help you tell your story?
Oh, that's right. You did ask me how is this a metaphor? Because I thought it was an interesting way to put the story because there's so many, there is a central theme there about growing up as a Mormon and coming out as gay. But there are other important themes. Immigrant coming here, or facing so many challenges. I put there my grandma's story, which is a powerful story. It was a way to bring her memory, keep her memory alive. And I thought the Ironman is a good metaphor, not just for my story, but for everyone's story.
Mm,
Because we're in this life, and everyone who's listening, we only have one life, one crazy, wild life. And we want to live it to our fullest. And we don't want to leave anything undone.
yeah.
At least I don't want to. I want to live my life and give my all to it. And in a race like Ironman, you have to give your all during training and especially during the race because you want to make it to the end. You did not train so hard for a whole year and not make it to the end. And in
Mm,
our personal lives, no matter what struggles we go through, no matter what happens, even if life beats you down and you feel like you don't want to get up, believe me, you're reading the story. Then there was a moment that I thought I could no longer go on. It was like the 11th hour, and I was so sick that I could have fainted. And I said, no way, I'm not giving up. So that is the message. No
mm,
matter what goes on in our lives, no matter how much life hits, and we get up and we keep on moving forward one step at a time until we get to our own finish lines.
beautiful. And what was the feeling like when you completed the Ironman?
Well, I don't. What I talked about there is that the weekend before the Ironman, there was a sewage in the Hudson River because that's where I threw myself, or they threw all of these athletes there. So towards the middle of the race, I got so sick that I was like I had chills and I still had a whole full marathon to run. I couldn't even take the energy gels. It was so crazy. So it took beyond my physical abilities to finish.
Mm,
It took mental power, spiritual power, everything of me. So when I got to
mm,
the end, and I see the finish line and I see my coaches because I had the most incredible coaches, one Russian coach who will never compliment me during the training. It was nothing was ever good enough for this Russian coach. And I see him towards the end and he looks at me and finally he smiles for the first time, says, well done, you know? And I see myself approaching the finish line. And what a majestic sound when the announcer says, Veronica Carrera, you are an Iron Man. And then I just crossed it and I just wanted to collapse. My
yeah,
friends and my partner just hugged me. And that was just the most beautiful thing.
yeah.
Yes.
And I think your point is it's like this in life too, right? There's
Yeah.
sometimes where our plans don't work out, you know, life is hard, it's challenging in ways that we never expected. But wow, when it's over, we can look back with some gratitude and feel some joy. You had one of the things you talked about is towards the end of the book, you had an experience where you've had a lot of people in your life that caused you pain, as
Mm.
we all have, right? People who cause us joy, people who cause us pain, and extraordinary amounts of pain sometimes. But at some point, you were able to forgive them or get closer to forgive them. Tell us about that. How does that work? Because that is a problem for many of us.
Hmm. And I think is our the biggest thing that we have to do as human beings. It's not easy, I mean, even now I still have to find my strength to continue to forgive. But the biggest message in the book is forgiveness. It does not matter what anyone has ever done.
Mm,
And as you read, Scott, my father was a central figure here. and I had to forgive. But until you forgive, you're not free.
Mm.
And I realized that.
Yeah.
And there's so much healing and so much power that comes from forgiveness and releasing everyone. Releasing because you realize that everyone does the best they can given where they are in life.
Mm.
I truly believe that no one intentionally, at the very core, all of us are love. At the very core, that's our eternal essence. Our eternal nature. So at the very core, we are all light. And but there are things that along the way, as we grow up in this place, this planet called life, we get muddy with so
Mhm.
much trauma, childhood trauma, religious trauma, being in a certain type of marriage, in whatever job situation, so much stuff, right? Then we forget who we are.
Mm. Yeah.
So we must forgive those who forgot who they are so
Yeah.
that we can remember who we are.
Yeah. It's a beautiful progression that you talk about. In first we feel anger towards other people, and then there's this forgiveness, and then there's even this gratitude, because the truth is it's those people that gave you the hard time or you struggled with that allowed you to be who you are today. And it's the challenge itself, not in spite of, but the challenge itself that made you, that refined you as a person, that gave you more compassion, that gave you more strength, that gave you ultimately more capacity for joy.
Mhm.
But what a powerful transition you've been through. So congratulations.
Thank you, Scott.
So, I think probably some people are wondering about the process of writing a book. You've put it out there. Your life is out there. There's people, at LinkedIn you work with, or people you're friends, and now your whole life is there. Like, what is that experience like? How does that feel?
Well, I want you to share too, because you just went through it. But first, I have to thank you, Scott, because as I was getting ready to publish my book being officially published, you were the person that I talked to see how that felt like.
Hmm.
And those half an hour, I mean, I was about 30 minutes with you, helped me center in my purpose. You
Hmm.
are a wonderful human being. And meeting you at LinkedIn has been one of my gifts, by the way, one of my greatest gifts at LinkedIn. And so thank you for always being so generous and generous with who you are as a human being, but generous even in this journey that you have gone through in writing your book. And you offered to speak to me. And it was helpful because I still did not know how I was going to feel. I was like, yes, I'm ready. It's not about me, it's about everybody else. And this is my gift to humanity. So it doesn't matter. But then, then, by the way, I was about to tell you, then my book gets published, but it got published really fast. And I was actually
Hmm.
thinking, oh, by the time a publishing firm picks it up, it's going to be years. So I don't have to worry about anything. But no, it got picked up in a matter of like what 3 months by the
Uh-huh.
publishing firm. So it just went by so fast. So the first time that I had to process was when I came here to my apartment in New Jersey, um, and I sat with myself on Sunday, and I was actually thinking, "Oh my gosh, this is a week. My life is going to be out there."
Yeah.
And this is sad, and you feel a little bit vulnerable. You feel vulnerable, a little bit exposed, and I think my conversation with you helped me. I was remembering some of the things you said, and it helped me come back to my center,
Hmm.
which is this is what is the reason why I did this. This is my gift. My story becomes that
Hmm.
gift to humanity, to anyone who would put their hands on it and who need it the most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability and being able to share. It's an interesting thing that humans are programmed to mirror vulnerability. So when
Mhm.
those around us are vulnerable, we are more vulnerable too. And in my own experience, it leaves us more powerful. It's counterintuitive, but it actually leaves us feeling more powerful because,
Liberated.
we've already shared anything. You can't hurt me now.
Yeah, there is a freedom and liberation with it as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So who do you hope will read this book?
I'm who would I hope? I mean, I want everyone to read it because And I think we share that, because even
Mm,
if it's not you who's gone through childhood trauma, religious trauma, the fact that we are in a world that is very diverse now and it's an important initiative, but you are going to encounter in one way or the other one of these groups, and
mm,
hopefully the story allows you to be more equipped, to be more compassionate, to be more supportive. But
mm,
now I'm going to speak to those who this story may touch him very deeply, the LGBT community, particularly those who may feel that there's no way out.
mm,
That I promise you, then there is a way out.
mm,
Then there is a path to wholeness, to healing, to liberation, to freedom, and ultimately to love.
mm. Yeah. And I think that your story, while particularly powerful for the groups that you represent, is really the story of each one of us, because each one of us have felt isolated or different or just lost, separated from each other, or maybe even separated from ourselves. And so what you've given us is a journey towards hope and a journey towards something much deeper. So thank you for taking the time and for your incredible courage to write it down. So friends, we'd have just a few minutes if you'd like to throw a question in the comments for Veronica. Would love to see that here. And let's see, Veronica, one of the stories that really touched me was, over time, over a long period of time, your relationship with your grandmother and how that kind of, came and went. So perhaps you could describe the essence of your grandma to the rest of us and what she meant to you.
Well, my grandma, thank you for even bringing her up, because she was the inspiration for me to start writing the book. I lost her about 4 years ago. She raised me after my mom died when I was a little girl. So losing her 4 years ago just broke my heart wide open. And at first I sat down as a way to honor her and remember our stories. And she was a woman of so much strength, so much power. And I think I feel her every day.
Yeah.
And I thank her for having been in my life.
Mm. Veronica, would it be okay if we ended with a kind of a group practice here?
Of course, of course.
Well, and then we'll come back. But let's just take a moment, if you would, and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and let it go. And just imagine all of us together in the same room. The sense of community. And we're here to honor Veronica and her story. But we're also honoring each of your stories as well. Because each one of you have felt the joy of unconditional love with someone. You felt the sting of isolation. And in our human journey to realize that we're all the same. As Veronica says, just light. And so in this place where we imagine us all together, just look around and see us all in the same spot. Unique, but connected. And taking another deep breath in and letting it all go and returning here to our conversation. And thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And Veronica, thank you and congratulations. But thank you really for giving us the gift of your vulnerability and your strength, and especially of your story. It is an inspiration. So if you haven't read it yet, go to Amazon right now and find it. It's called 140 Miles of Life. And after you're done, please write an Amazon review it's the best way for people to find great books.
The story, no, and Scott, and I want to thank LinkedIn and the leaders for all their support. I have been in awe at the support that I have received from this company, because it is a very unique, complex, and difficult story. And I am so appreciative of being here in this company during this time of my life when this book is coming out. So I could have not asked for anything better. And for anyone from my previous companies watching, Bloomberg, Gartner, thank you so much for also listening. And thank you, Scott, again for your generosity and for your kindness.
My pleasure.
Right.
All right. Thank you, friends. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Go out there and be ambassadors for compassion today. Huh?
Thank you.